Life in the SEC officially begins Saturday for the Oklahoma Sooners as Josh Heupel comes back home to Norman. They take on the Tennessee Volunteers, giving us the Oklahoma perspective on the biggest game of the weekend. A dear friend of mine and one of the best in the business, especially when it comes to covering all things Oklahoma. Tyler McComas, the host of The Rush on The Ref from 2 to 6 every single day there in Norman. Tyler, what's going on, man? Appreciate you taking the time.
Man, I love coming on with you. You know that. And you said biggest game in college football in Norman. I was thinking about this yesterday. That hasn't been true a lot over the past 25 years. Yeah, OU's a blue blood program. Yeah, they've won a lot over the past 25 years. But playing Texas and Dallas every single year, being in the Big 12 where there's not a whole lot of exciting games, there just hasn't been a lot of weekends where you can say the game in Norman is the biggest game in college football. And game one in the SEC, boom, here we go, man. And for the ideal matchup for the SEC, like you would think, you want to come out with a great game to get OU started off in SEC play. They nailed it, man. They nailed it. I mean, game day's here, primetime kick, Josh Heupel's back, game day's here, biggest game of the weekend. This was always the ideal matchup for OU game one of the SEC. And, dude, everyone's just so jacked up around here, man. It's awesome.
Tyler, enlighten me. When was the last time College Game Day was in Norman? I feel like I haven't seen that in quite a long time.
Well, no one was allowed to go the last time they were here because it was 2020 when Oklahoma State came to town. 25% capacity that evening. I think there was a little bit more than 25% that night. But before that, pre-pandemic, 2012 against Notre Dame.
Wow.
2012 against Notre Dame. Yeah, man, it's been over a decade, so it's a big weekend, man. It's a huge deal, and I think we could be looking at one of the best atmospheres again that we've seen in program history around here.
Tyler, before we dive into that Tennessee game, I do want to get your thoughts on what you've seen from Oklahoma to this point. 3-0, 3 wins, but the way they've come about, especially the last 2 weeks against Houston and Tulane. You can even go back to the Temple game. You win that one 51-3, but you saw some things, the third down conversion rate, maybe some things offensively. I feel like that's been the big talking point, obviously, Tyler, is the offense is kind of sputtering along. The defense looks as good as advertised, at least through non-conference play. What have you seen from this team, Tyler? Has anything surprised you? Has it been what you expected? Just overall thoughts on Oklahoma through 3 weeks.
Defense hasn't surprised me. Last time we talked, I said I think they have a chance to be the best defense in every single SEC game they play. I'm not taking back any of those predictions or thoughts based after the first 3 games. Chris, so far, and this is their biggest test on Saturday, they are who I kind of thought that they would be, a defense that gets after the quarterback, creates a lot of takeaways, just a good, solid defense and good enough to really put you in a position to win. I'm surprised about the offense. I didn't think that this is going to be one of the better offenses in the SEC, but I believe I told you as well before the year. I thought, well, if nothing else, they'll have a young quarterback and they'll have some offensive line issues, but man, with Deion Burks and Nick Anderson and some of these running backs, they're going to have a lot of big play potential. Like, they'll make mistakes. They won't be perfect. They're going to hit on a lot of big plays offensively. Dude, they can't hit on a big play. I mean, they're not even trying to stretch the field right now. Now, to be fair, I had no idea going into training camp that they would be as decimated by injuries as they have been to this point. I mean, you're replacing all of your O-line starters, and the guys that you're trying to replace those dudes with are getting hurt. Less than ideal. Jaden Gibson, who I thought was going to be wide receiver number 3, out for the year before you play a game. Jalil Farouk was a starter coming into the year, got hurt on his first catch. Nick Anderson, wide receiver number 2 at worst, hasn't played it down just yet. So you've been decimated by injuries on the offensive side of the ball. Now, is that an excuse to not be great against Temple of all teams offensively? No. Is that an excuse to be as bad on third down as you were against Houston? No. So, I mean, maybe those excuses fly a little bit in the SEC, but, dude, you haven't been facing SEC caliber competition. And naturally, the quarterback gets most of the blame, right? And that's the case around here. But Jackson Arnold hasn't played with a full deck this year in terms of the same starting five. They're going to roll out their 4th different starting offensive line combination on Saturday, right? I mean, that's not a great situation to put a first-year quarterback. The wide receivers outside Deion Burks haven't been excellent. The run game has been non-existent. So whereas Jackson Arnold has gotten a lot of the blame, and I'm not saying that he's been perfect because he can be a lot better as well, the situation around him has not been great. Because what are his strengths as a quarterback? Well, I think pushing the ball down the field, really being aggressive in the pass game, the arm strength, the accuracy, all that. You have put him in a situation now where you can't even really exploit his or really showcase his true strengths. I mean, it's been more of him running the ball than anything. So I'm surprised that they have no big play potential right now at all. And I'm really surprised that we're seeing an offense right now that's struggling to move the football consistently. It was better last week against Tulane. It was better, but it's going to have to be a whole lot better here moving forward if this team wants to do something year one in the SEC.
Tyler, to your point, I noticed the stat that jumped out to me is that Jackson Arnold is actually leading this team in rushing. So, I mean, what is it that Oklahoma's offense, have they done anything well? I mean, I guess the run game has not really emerged the way that we thought. I mean, again, you mentioned the third down conversion. I mean, going into SEC play, what is it you think Oklahoma leans on the offensive side to find some production? Because to your point, we know that the old saying is defense wins championships, and I think in modern college football, it's just enough defense wins championship. You got to be able to score, though. So how do you see Oklahoma, can they fix it? Can it get fixed? And what are the things they're going to try to maximize as their strength going forward?
Well, the good news is in what the SEC availability report, I get in trouble around here by listeners saying it's not an injury report, it's availability report. Get it right. I think it's the availability report. But the hope and the expectation is that Nick Anderson is finally back this week. That's big for the offense, man. I mean, that's he's a weapon himself. That frees up Deion Burks, I think, a little bit here moving forward, which would be big as well. Branson Hickman, your starting center, who had an ankle sprain like quarter one of game one. You think he might be back. Another offensive lineman might be back. So they're getting healthier. So that's good. Now, what have they done well offensively? I don't know. I mean, again, the quarterback run game was pretty good last week with Jackson Arnold. Like you said, he's the leading rusher on the team right now, which is pretty crazy. But this has been a hurry-up, fast, up-tempo offense for the past couple of years now, really since ever Jeff Lebby got here. And I think that that's what they were going to be, is a fast, aggressive offense. I don't think that they can be that as much as they want to be. Because, Chris, it's one thing to not to be able to score points and to not be able to move the ball consistently, but it's another thing to be not great offensively and then put your better side of the ball in a terrible situation. And that's what they were doing, man, especially in that Houston game. You're not doing anything offensively, but it's worse than that because you're putting the side of the ball that could actually win you a game in a terrible spot when it comes to time of possession and going out there with the quick 3 and out in 38 seconds and putting your defense right back out there on the field. So you saw it last week. They worked a lot slower. Like we're used to seeing OU lose the time of possession battle because they operate so fast. Well, they actually won the time of possession battle last week against Tulane because they operated a lot slower. And in the first half, it looked really good, man. I mean, it looked really good. So once you get your guys back, I don't think they're going to completely abandon the downfield passing game. I mean, you can't in this conference or any conference. You're going to have to take some chances deep and hit on those. But I think it's a team, as it is right now, that realizes that they can't go score for score with Tennessee or some of the better offenses in the SEC. That's not the way that they can win. They're going to have to win with defense. They're going to have to win ugly. And the way that they're able to do that is they're going to have to slow some things down and make it a little bit more even when it comes to time of possession. A long answer to say, dude, I don't know what they do well offensively right now, but it's more the hope once they get their guys back, they'll figure out what they do best there. Because I'm coming out of week 2 saying, what's their identity? And I know that that's just a thing that people like to say and throw out all the time, but it's serious. Like, I don't know what they were trying to do offensively. I don't know what their identity is. I think the quarterback run game is about to be a big part of their identity, and getting the ball as much as possible to Deion Burks and Bauer Sharp, who's been a bright spot at tight end up to this point.
The quest for complementary football in Norman continues because that defense obviously is lethal, but you got to have an offense to go with it. On that note, Tyler, as we zero in on this game on Saturday, again, highly anticipated matchup, what have you seen from the Vols to this point? They've played 2 games against inferior competition. Granted, they were up, I think, like 56-0 at halftime. And, I mean, they've run it up against some inferior competition, but also against NC State. They took them to the woodshed 51-10. Ranked in the top 10. You talk to anybody, they're one of the hottest teams in college football. I'm not sure how much you've been able to watch Tennessee, but from what you've seen and what you've read up on them and looking at the stats, what jumps out to you about the challenges the Volunteers will present?
It's like watching a up-tempo basketball team play. I don't know if you want to compare them to like the Golden State Warriors, but it's like they tip the ball off and then you blink and there's like 18 points on the board and they've already hit 5 threes or something like that. That's what Tennessee games have felt like this year. They kick the ball off. You look back 5 minutes later and you're saying, dang, they're already up 21 points. I think maybe the main storyline nationally is Nico. Oh, man, he's got all the tools. He's legit. He's going to be the next great quarterback at Tennessee, and I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that at all. That run game's nasty, though. I mean, with Dylan Sampson and some of the other weapons they have, like their skill position players, man, the way that they can run, then take a deep shot on you, put you in bad situations defensively. Dude, this is a really, really good offense operating with a lot of tempo right now. Now, to be fair, I don't think that they played the best schedule up to this point. I think North Carolina State has shown us that they're not a legitimate football team, but Nico's got all the talent in the world. I don't care who they've played up to this point. It's very obvious that Nico is extremely talented and the guy that we all thought he was coming out of high school. But has he faced adversity yet? I don't know if he has. And maybe he thrives in adversity. Maybe he's great. That certainly could be the case. I do think for this Tennessee team, and I do think for Nico individually as well, they're going to face adversity for the first time. And if we're looking at pass to Oklahoma for victory, I think that's it right there. Because Tennessee hasn't been a great road team the past couple of years. Like last year they were 1-3, got handled by Mizzou and Columbia. Their lone road win was at Kentucky. And the year before that, when they had the best season in 20 years and were knocking on the college football playoff right there and end up winning the Orange Bowl, they go to Columbia, South Carolina and get kind of curb stomped out there, right? So they haven't been a great road team under Josh Heupel recently. This is a big test because this place is going to be insane. But if Tennessee gets up early, if they can shut the crowd down and they get up a couple of scores, man, they're going to make OU play a game that I don't think they're very comfortable playing right now.
Now, Tyler, if I were to cut you open, you bleed the crimson and cream. So I have to imagine when you see someone like Josh Heupel, a man that you pulled for that led your beloved Sooners to a national championship, and he's coming back with he's on the mission of kicking ass, and Oklahoma's next up on the schedule. Like, talk to me about the mixed emotions, because I'm sure you and many Oklahoma fans and Josh himself, right, are going to have it. We all know about he was there coaching under Bob Stoops, got fired and let go. And I think there's probably more to the story that you can shed light on that, where there might be maybe some bad blood or what have you. But that's obviously one of the major talking points in this, because I've seen all the memes this week and the highlights of Josh Heupel, playing quarterback for Oklahoma, and now he's bringing his Tennessee team in there. It's a fascinating dynamic to think about. Like, put yourself in the place of the fan that probably loved this guy. Obviously, he was the prodigal son, and now he's coming back, going to be on the other sideline. That's got to be a fascinating dynamic in this game.
He was my first favorite OU football player. I can still recount every single game of that 2000 season, remember that season extremely well. I mean, it was magical. I mean, it was a team that was barely in the top 25 to start the year, and they rolled all the way through undefeated, and Josh Heupel was the reason. He's not just a former national championship quarterback. He's the last quarterback to win a national championship here. It's a big deal, man. It's a huge deal. And so him coming back after being fired by Bob Stoops, who was his coach, and that was a wild time. And yeah, man, that was a deep cut. I mean, that cut deep for Josh when he got fired here. I don't think that's any secret. And I still think that there's some feelings, some tough feelings, maybe towards, Josh Heupel and maybe his former head coach at Oklahoma. At least from the Josh Heupel side of things, I still think that there's some very hard feelings. So no doubt, man, I think everyone here is ready and willing to welcome him back with open arms. We've been talking about, hey, do you show a tribute video? Because, dude, he led you to your last national championship. There's been mixed emotions on that, like showing a video or not, but there hasn't been mixed emotions on, we love this guy. We want him to succeed. He still means a lot around here to us around here. We want to give him warm welcome here and give him the respect he deserves. Now, I hope you kick his ass on Saturday, right? That's what everyone's hoping for sure. But I think everyone knows that, let's be honest, man, whatever a coach tells you in a press conference, Josh Heupel had this game circled. He absolutely had this game circled ever since it's been on the calendar. And yes, I do believe that Brent Venables and this defense have been holding some things back. And Nico's going to see some different fronts, some different personnel groups. I mean, OU is very capable of doing some exotic things defensively, and they've held some things back for this game. But on the same side of that, you don't think Josh Heupel has been holding some things back offensively heading into this game? Heck yeah, he has. So just the welcome back is going to be fascinating because we've never seen something like that before. But to, like, from a pure football guy aspect, to see the different things that Oklahoma does defensively and the different things Tennessee does offensively, I think is a very underrated, fascinating aspect of this game. But you're not going to see Josh Heupel walk in to the stadium on Saturday and hear a lot of, this isn't Nick Saban returning to LSU. I mean, this ain't even in the same thing. Like, you'll claps, cheers, all that. Like, everyone loves and appreciates Josh Heupel, as they should. As they should, man.
Tyler, you and I talked about this over the course of the offseason or the preseason, if you will, about maybe the disrespect it felt like Oklahoma was getting, especially when it came to the way people were talking about Texas. And you mentioned that it felt like Oklahoma was kind of the buddy that just gets to tag along, if you will, and how that disrespect maybe was going to fuel Oklahoma coming into their first season in the SEC. Tyler, it feels like that disrespect is continuing because I have not seen anybody give the Sooners a chance to win this football game. And, I mean, I guess you could look at some of it as maybe it's their own doing because Oklahoma hasn't looked great through 3 weeks and Tennessee's been blasting people. But just talk about that. I mean, what's the mood? What's the vibe around Oklahoma in regards to, I mean, again, Tyler, I haven't seen a soul pick Oklahoma to win this football game.
I haven't seen very many people pick Oklahoma to cover a 7-point favorite at home.
That too.
90% of the money right now on one online betting service, I will not mention it because proudly sponsored by Prize Picks, by the way, which a lot of people use around here. 90% of the money is currently on Tennessee to cover. OU hasn't been a home underdog like this since 1998, dude. Since before Bob Stoops got here. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about a line that we haven't seen since 1998 when the worst coach in OU history was here, right? So I am getting a lot around here of, think we got a chance? Think we got a chance this week? You think we got a chance? I think everyone's just so upset and nervous about the offense right now, and I do think they have a chance. I think it's going to be a close game with 5 minutes left because I think the defense is going to put this team in a situation to win. But the mood here is, super excited, but it's also like, let's quit proving people right. The narrative, whether it's fair or not, let's call it how it is. Whether the narrative is fair or right is Oklahoma's own fault because they went to the playoffs several times and they got their pants pulled down in front of everyone on national TV. So I can be upset about it. Everyone can be upset about the disrespect and everything else that's going on. Well, here's your chance, dude, because the entire country is going to be watching this game. And there's a chance that when the ratings come out for this game, it's going to be top 3, maybe even the highest rated college football game of the entire year thus far. So don't prove everyone right again, because everyone nationally is saying Tennessee's going to win and Tennessee's going to cover, and it's probably going to be domination. Here's your chance, man. You want to change the narrative? You want other publications to stop talking crap all the time? Well, here you go. Against a Tennessee team that's got some juice, against a Tennessee team that's rolling. I mean, how many times the past 20 years, respectfully, Tennessee fans, could you beat Tennessee at home and people look at that as a marquee win? I mean, if OU wins this weekend, it's one of the best wins in all of college football. Again, no disrespect, Tennessee fans. That hasn't really been the case all that much the past 20 years, but it is true this weekend because Tennessee has it rolling. Prove everyone wrong for once on the big stage. You haven't done it consistently. Here's your chance. Go do it.
So, Tyler, if Oklahoma is going to prove everyone wrong, if they're not only going to beat this spread but win this game straight up, what's the path for the Sooners to get there? How do they have to win this game? What do they have to do offensively, defensively? Does it have to be a low-scoring street fight? Can the offense wake up and go toe-to-toe with Josh Heupel's offense? Like, what is the path in your mind for OU to quote-unquote pull the upset and score a big home win?
Going to have to play their best game of the year. I think that goes without saying. They can't make just – I like Deion Burks, but there's a 3rd and 12 last week late in the game where he's got a drop that would have been a first down, and you just can't have those mistakes when your offense is struggling to get going. Defense has got to force – here's the thing. Like, yes, the defense has to force Nico into mistakes. They got to force him into early mistakes. I talk about put him in a situation that he hasn't been before. I don't think he's faced a whole lot of adversity so far in his career. And again, maybe he handles that just fine. He might. But face him, get him with some early adversity, and dude, get that crowd on it. Because this is going to be an insane crowd on Saturday night. Make Tennessee fans feel like, oh, wow, we are on the road and they are on top of us right now. I think you got to have early success defensively, and this offense has to possess the football. I'll put a number on it. I think the OU offense, and not just the OU offense, like team, like you, whether it's a special team score or a defensive score or whatever, you got to get to at least 28. Because as good as I think that this OU defense is, you're not holding Tennessee to 7 points. You're not holding Tennessee to 10 points. And, they're an offense where you can feel like you're playing really well for long stretches, and then, boom, they hit on a big play, and there's a big touchdown. I think you got to get to that 28 number, and I think if you can get to that 28 number and the defense plays well, I think you got a chance. But offense is going to have to hit on some big plays that they haven't. They're going to need a big defensive play, a big special teams play. They're going to have to at least win 2 of the 3 phases. And the 2 most likely ones are special teams and defense. They're going to have to win those 2. I'm not one that thinks Tennessee's just going to roll in here and win by 28 again. I think it's going to be a very close game because I think OU is going to make it tough on Tennessee's offense, but you better have a good first 15 minutes because once they get rolling, buddy, they're tough to stop. And they absolutely look like a college football playoff team to me right now, man. I don't know about you, but they look like one to me.
Yeah, going to be a great game on Saturday night. They do, but like you said, in this league, going on the road, night game, what's going to be a crazy atmosphere. I got a weird feeling, Tyler. We are in for a classic down there in Norman. Tyler McComas, host of The Rush on the Ref, someone I'm grateful to call a friend. He does a fantastic job. Tyler, let folks know, just in case somehow they've been living under a rock and they aren't familiar with your work and what you do, let folks know where they can check you out.
YouTube, man. Do a lot of college football content there. Got one coming up by the end of the week because like you said, there's all this, you can't win. Well, I'm going to give 3 reasons why they can win and why they will win. Tyler McComas on YouTube. Go like, subscribe, talk smack to me in the comments. I don't care, whatever you want to do. But I'm on YouTube as well, and I need to get my good pal Chris Phillips on maybe next week to run down the SEC a bit.
Anytime, Tyler. Appreciate you taking the time, man. Good luck this weekend, and we'll chat again soon.
You bet, dude. Anytime.